Welcome to this tutorial on how to install the necessary files for your IDE, as well as how to clone and port to GitHub. That is your software. So to start, I just want to make sure that you have all these applications installed, well, these setups installed. Git, the most latest version of Git, GitExtensions, as well as WPI lib installer. First thing we'll do is install our IDE. In this case, it is WPI lib. While we're doing that, I suppose we'll install our other applications, GitExtensions and Git. Now that everything's done, we can move on to our next step, that is writing our code. Well, in this tutorial, I will just be showing you how to port your existing code. And that is the next step. Simply uploading your code to GitHub using GitExtensions. When you open GitExtensions, select your correct language and wait as the application begins its first startup. Once the application finishes initializing, you should see this pop up. And here is where your repositories will exist, where you can select from, and pretty much where you're going to be doing all your work. These three options over here are to create a new repository, that is to create one from scratch from a local directory. You also have open repository, opening a repository local to your computer, as well as cloning repository, that is pulling code existing already on GitHub. The first step I'll be doing in this tutorial is the simplest one, that is cloning an already existing repository from GitHub. The first step is to go to a site where you can pull your existing code or cloning it to your machine. This is just an example, so I'm using my profile. And what I'll be pulling down is a file called generic 323232 and so forth. Cloning is pretty simple. All you have to do is click on the clone or download dropdown, copy the address, go over to GitExtensions, click on clone repository. It already will paste it for you if you already have it on your clipboard, and then browse a destination on your machine. For me, I will just put it somewhere. After that, there's not much you really need to do. You simply just need to click clone, and it will do that process for you. Now you should be met with a new window. Up here you will have your toolbar. In the center here, you will have your tree, basically all of your commits, as well as all your branches of new code. And down here, the author, as well as commit messages. This whole screen right here, this whole section, is probably the most useful part of a collaborative programming workspace, because you can see the most recent history, you can go back to different versions of the code or to different existing versions, as well as see new commit messages from your fellow peers. Additionally, you should see that your file has been successfully ported to your machine in whatever destination you put the directory. The next step we're going to be doing is creating a new repository, or in this case, uploading code that you have created to GitHub, say your profile, or to your collaborative group account. To do that, we are going to navigate to Create New Repository, and then we are going to browse the directory of our file. In my case, it is going to be in, well, that doesn't really matter. Just your directory location. Select the folder of your directory, and then click on Create. After that, you should have created a new repository that now simply needs to just be uploaded. Now, we're not necessarily done yet because our code is not yet online. The next step we need to do is navigate to github.com, go to your Profile Repositories tab, click on New, and we're going to create a new open or empty repository for you to upload your code. For me in this case, I'm just going to call it generic 34 repeating. Give it a description. Please make it public because otherwise you cannot work with your peers, so please make it public. And then create repository. Now that you've done that, you should see that you have a new address that you can use to port your code, and that is what we're going to be using. So we're going to be copying this address to the clipboard by clicking the clipboard icon, navigating back to GitExtensions, moving over to repository, going down to remote repositories, and then adding the name and URL of our code. The name can be whatever you want, but the URL is what matters. So in the URL, we're just going to paste our address. And the name can be whatever. I'm just going to call it origin. Save changes. Click yes. Wait for it to complete its process. Then close this window. And now the next thing to do is to navigate to repository. Again, go down to repository settings. And now in this step, we are going to have to enter our username and our user email. Finally, the next step to do is to push and commit your code once and for all. This is equally as important because, one, it actually pushes your code online or uploads your code in a more informal sense. And second, it allows you to communicate better with your teams about the messages that you sent with your code, the changes you made, that is. So what we do is we are going to click on the commit icon with the check mark. Once this finishes indexing, we are going to then stage all of our changes. It will give you a warning message, but you can simply ignore that. And finally, you can enter your message. Now, this is also very important because without making a message, well, the analogy could go is you create a change to the code that you don't know is actually breaking the code, and then you upload it. The next day, when we pull our code, our most recent edition, and try to build our code, we get an error. Now, without sending a message, we won't know where that error originated. And so sending a message alongside your commit changes is very important because it helps us determine whether there might be a bug in our code. For me, because this is a new upload of our code, I can simply type something as short as first commit. As simple as that. It can be as simple as a few words, or you can get very wordy, depending on the significance of the changes you made. If you made only a few tweaks, it really does not matter as long as it's not overhauling the code. You can write something as simple as a half sentence or even a few words. However, if you're writing something that's big and involves adding or removing multiple lines of code, if not classes, please make sure to add more descriptions as respectively. Now that we have finished our message, we can simply just click commit and push. Now that that's done, we can click OK. And we should click yes, yes. Wait for it to complete its process. And finally log into GitHub. So then wait again for the program to upload the code finally. Click OK. And finally, we have uploaded our code to the internet. Well done. To see the results, we can simply navigate back to our browser, go to our repository, refresh the site, and you should then be able to see that you have uploaded indeed and uploaded a folder, or in this case, multiple folders containing your classes and all the code you created. And so now, once that's online, it can now be accessible, as long as you put public, that is, by any of your other peers. That means you can now have a collaborative working program or project across multiple laptops and different machines. Another benefit of having this on GitHub is, say you don't want to use your laptop anymore and you want to switch to a desktop. Well, all you got to do is you just have to download or clone your code, open it with your favorite IDE of choice, and then simply continue writing your code. And once you've finished, upload your code to the internet, and you can continue off or where you left off on a different device or with a different team member. thank you. This is my first video. I apologize for the poor quality of this, but I was not made for making tutorials, so my apologies.